Captain Logan.
And I'm the Geoff!
You know, I think you got your volume figured out. Well,
I've been working on it!
I think we'll have to come up with a match now. You know, you have to, maybe I'll come up a little bit, you can come down just a little bit.
Okay.
Geoff, welcome back to the channel.
Good to be back.
I want to say it's been, okay, so that's not going to work. I want to say it's been maybe a year since you've been on in any capacity.
That sounds about right, and we've been toppling expectations ever since.
Last summer, Geoff and I did a full 7-part series on the Harry Potter movies. And
you will lose everything.
And a lot of people really liked those, and we've had some folks just begging Geoff to come back to the channel. And so Geoff and I were kind of kicking around. Of course, if you're new to the channel or you didn't see those and you don't know Geoff, Geoff's my stepdad.
Hi.
And Geoff and I love watching movies together, love discussing stuff, and we were kind of kicking around what we thought might be another cool series to do. And people really want to see us do Lord of the Rings, but I'm not real knowledgeable there, so we're still kicking that around. But we thought
We'd show you a DVD.
we thought it might be cooler to go ahead and jump into Pixar. So Geoff and I are going to do a full series of Pixar discussions, and we're going to do them in production order. So we're going to do all of them. And we're going to start, of course, with the first Pixar film, Toy Story, 1995. Geoff, why don't you start us off? Just anywhere you want to go. Did you see this when it came out?
I did, in theater. I don't see a lot of movies in theaters.
Yeah.
I went to this one and was amazed. I had seen, well before this, it was an event where a whole collection of animated shorts made by all sorts of different people was shown. It's the International Tourney of Animation, way back in the 90s. And it was 92, might have been 93. And among them was the Pixar film, the original one with the lamp.
Oh, that's neat. So you had the fortune of getting to see that before they even made their big screen debut.
I saw that one. I also saw Tin Toy.
Right.
Before anyone had heard of Pixar, before anyone had any idea that this would ever rise to making a feature film with this technology. And it was sandwiched in there among all sorts of drawn animation of varying quality.
Sure, yeah.
And some of which were very funny and not. But when I heard Pixar was going to do a movie with Disney, I didn't even remember that Pixar was the people behind those two shorts that I'd seen. The lamp one I had thought at the time was brilliant. The Tin Toy I thought was funny, although I thought that baby was just about the ugliest thing I had ever seen animated. Granted, this was before I had seen any of Crick-Falusi's work, but I had seen Don Bluth, but I'd forgotten about him. But still, this movie was amazing.
Yeah.
And it came at a time when we were beginning to despair of animation altogether. Disney had come back with a couple of decent animated movies all of a sudden, but
yeah, this was a year after Lion King.
Yeah, they had done The Mermaid, they had done
Beauty and the Beast,
they had done The Lion King. We weren't sure Aladdin, that what came in between. And we weren't sure whether this was going to last or not.
Sure.
And then suddenly comes this new thing, and we'd never seen computer animation like this before.
Of this kind of level and for an entire film.
Even at the time this came out, when you said computer animation to me, I thought of stuff on the level of, say, South Park. And this is rather better than that. If you haven't seen it, I recommend it as rather better animation than you'd see on South Park. And here this came, and it was this intelligent story, intelligently told. It was something that you could enjoy with children, but you didn't have to be a child to enjoy. It was never condescending, never insulting, and never crude or horrible. And looked visually amazing. in 1990, whatever.
Fine, yeah. I think one of the reasons that Toy Story was so ridiculously successful is because it wasn't just this great computer animation where I feel like to a degree people had been kind of waiting for this also.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like I want to say I could be wrong. I want to say we already had Reboot by this point. I mean, I think we had some attempts at this going on television. We hadn't had a feature film yet, and I think that the thing that one of the things that really put this over the top was that it needed this kind of animation. I don't think you could tell this story in 2D animation. I don't think it would have been as effective.
Yeah, I mean, you could have.
You could have, but it wouldn't have been the same. It would have been the same thing.
Exactly.
And I don't know that you would have wanted to do it in stop motion either. I think that part of what helped was that they had the right concept for this kind of animation right out the gate.
I could see this story having been told in stop motion. I could see them doing that had they chosen to.
But on the scale that they went, the story would have been
well.
different, I think. I mean, the scale that they went for, I don't think you would have had the climactic action sequence at the end on the street and all of that. I mean, that kind of thing would have been very, very difficult to do.
It's hard to imagine Nick Park pulling that off.
Yeah, right.
Although he's welcome to try.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Invite him to, if you're watching this.
Why? I mean, I think you touched on it already. I was gonna kind of throw out the question of why was this so ridiculously successful and popular. I think you kind of hit it. This is like the consummate family film.
It is, and it is a family film. That meaning the whole family can watch it, rather than something parents have to tolerate while they drag their kids to, or something that parents can stick in the player and walk away knowing that their children will be well babysat for an hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah, or alternatively something that is animated that is too far over kids' heads and they don't quite get it. You know, I feel like I was thinking of other things from around this time or a little before while I was watching this, and I was thinking of things like American Tail, which I think kind of had that, where it was where like that was a movie that was supposed to be for kids, but it was a little too dark, it was a little too creepy, and the themes were a little too adult, so it was kind of going over kids' heads. And early drafts of this script had that problem.
Really?
Yeah. It is amazing that Toy Story turned out to be not just as successful as it was, but as good of a story as it was, and not cynical, because the direction it was going in the first place was a little bit cynical. And so I think that part of his success is that they managed to leave a little bit of that edgy in there, with like the stuff with Sid in his room, and like it doesn't get too cutesy.
Potato Head.
Yeah, like
there's nothing cute about Potato Head in this movie.
One of the things that I love about this film is that it's toys, and like on the surface it's like, okay, who cares, you know? It's toys trying not to get either taken away from their owner or killed or something, but they're toys, who cares? And the stakes feel enormous in this film.
Yeah. You
know,
feel the terror of the cardboard box and the garage sale.
Yeah, precisely. And also the creepy kid next door that's going to shoot everything up in a rocket, you know? And so, and it's because you're invested in these two protagonists. I also think that this is the beginning of Pixar, of course, being the beginning of Pixar. Pixar, I think, is
a feature film.
Kind of, as a feature film thing. But I mean, like, they have kind of made a name for themselves as time went on of doing the dual protagonist thing well.
They do.
They do ensemble cast well also, and this certainly is somewhat of an ensemble cast, but it's not Woody's story or Buzz's story. It's a dual protagonist story, and they are fantastic at these paralleling character arcs. These two characters are entirely different, and they start off in entirely different places, and they have different wants and goals at the beginning. By the end, their wants and goals are the same, and they've basically learned the same thing. They have paralleling character arcs.
They each have their lesson to learn. They each have their own change to make. And
but importantly, they're really similar changes to make finally at the end of the day.
They are converging in their way, and yet you get them at the end, and they still have individuality.
Yeah, no, absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's a film, and I also think that it's a good message for kids and not heavy-handed, learning to accept what and who you are while also self-improving. It's not a matter of like, I'm just fine the way I am right now. That's not the message, but it's okay that Buzz might make Andy obsolete, because at the end of the day, he's not really obsolete. There's still something that he has for that kid that Buzz doesn't. That's something I really loved about the sequel, is that by the second movie, Andy is playing with both of them, and he's now both a cowboy fan and a science fiction fan.
Something the toys took for granted at the beginning was impossible. But I appreciate, I put it this way, a lot of things made for children will try to take accepting who you are as a theme.
Yeah, sure.
Or becoming something else, becoming better than you were as a theme. Maybe not so much. Maybe not as popular as the first.
Yeah.
And what this story does is take neither one of those things as the theme. Instead, you have these characters who must deal with this problem and that situation. And that process is going to involve finding out who they are and who they should become, who they need to become in order to do what they need to do. So that the focus is not on self-acceptance or any of that hoo-ha, but on what the focus is in real life for real people.
You're right. Yeah, it's not a neon sign, it's contextualized.
You have things you got to do, and you got to figure out how to do them. You got to figure out who you must become. You got to figure out who you are so you know what to do to become who you must become, to do what you need to do. Once you figure out what you need to do, if you figure out what you need to do, that's adult life.
Yeah.
And these characters have an adult life kind of problem, rather than sort of a rainbow bright, oh wow, everybody is friends already, yay.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And that is what I appreciate in this, that distinguishes it from so much children's programming.
Especially at the time.
It's neither smart alecky nor cynical nor sugar-coated, or oversimplified. It's real.
Well, and one of the optimistic ideas that comes out from that too. Yeah, I'm glad you said that. It's real. Like we can find all these messages and themes within it, but the nice thing is it's not plastering it like a road sign. I mean, like a neon sign, like I said earlier.
Like someone purposely talking too loud.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's not in your face and overbearing, and like some people I know. But
exactly.
But what I was going to say is another kind of optimistic idea that I can kind of pull out of this is having appreciation for both the old and the new. The idea that Buzz Lightyear seems to come in and take over because he's the new big hit thing. It's like seeing the new video game system come out and overpower the old one. You know what I mean? But
it makes me feel bad for my old computer.
But just like you said, it's real. A kid is going to naturally be all excited about the new thing and forget about the old thing for a while. Yeah, I mean, I think we all do this. I think we all get wrapped up in something for a time, but after a while, it levels off and becomes normal. And if the kid's level-headed enough, and if he's, in my opinion, and if he's raised right, he's likely to find an appreciation for all of the things in his room again at some point. And I really like that. It's cool, kind of looking at those broad, like world kind of issues and ideas and problems encapsulated in a child's room, reminding us that children are people too. They're just little adults, and they have some of the same kind of issues. I just think that that's really cool because
we forget this so easily.
And Andy's not even a character, really.
No.
But he will develop an appreciation for both of these characters, and he's not even really our protagonist.
He's like Godot. His being impacts the story and drives it in enormous ways, and yet he's not really a part of it. He's not in it, other than the fact that it's all about his impact on all of these other characters, because it's about all these other characters and their relationship with the Andy.
And then you could also make some really interesting character parallels between Andy and Sid, who never meet in the film.
Yeah.
who never had screen time together, who are both really props before their characters, and yet they are real people too. You know, that's kind of, I mean, like we all knew that kid.
Oh yeah.
Growing up, I certainly knew that kid.
Well,
I had one in the neighborhood that was like that. He liked to blow stuff up, and he liked to terrorize the neighborhood kids, and he liked to and he liked to create terrifying science projects out of different toys and things. But like, we all knew that kid.
Yeah. And that is one of the masterful things that Pixar does again and again and again. Nothing in a Pixar movie is just stock. Even very backgroundy things like Andy or Sid or Andy's mom.
Yeah.
Or the little sister that chews on the potato at the beginning and then shows up at the end. Every little thing is real. Every little thing is fleshed out.
You can see a real dynamic between Sid and his little sister.
Yeah.
And how he terrorizes her. And something you pointed out as we watched, that little girl's going to need therapy when she grows up. I mean, like, she's barely in the movie, but they use their real estate in this film, I think is the best way to put it. You know, they don't take anything for granted. So, like, they put these little details in so that you can see the reality of what's going on. I never noticed something that you pointed out. I can't believe I never caught it before. I've seen this movie a number of times. That when she has that tea party, all of her dolls are headless.
All her dolls are
because Sid is always taking those dolls, and so she doesn't seem fully well adjusted. She's a little off.
There's something off center in that kid she's going to be a serial killer, I think.
But then of course
she's going to be on
little,
Criminal Minds.
But there's some nice levity with her by the end too. Like Sid gets his comeuppance with what Woody does, and so then that kid is maybe gonna become more well adjusted because he had that experience. Of course, we see in a later film that he does actually. I'm forgetting, but I think we see Sid again. In a later movie, and he's doing some kind of job. I forget what it is, but he's like some loser working somewhere. I forget, but
that might be in 3.
I think it's in 3. Okay. Yeah, I'm forgetting now. Anyway, but what I'm saying is he didn't grow up and become a serial killer and go to jail. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
No,
his sister we don't know about.
Yeah, no, her we don't know about. But I mean, like we get a little bit of levity though. I liked it. I liked it at the end. He's scared of toys, and she runs around with her doll and scares him, and
takes full advantage of this opportunity. No, I mean, but everything gets thought. The door, even the first Pixar movie ever, and you notice things like the doors in the kids' rooms have the smears and stains and smudges and scratches on them. How the bed knobs have little markings on them.
One thing I noticed was like the detail of the textures on the crates.
Yes, those milk crates look
like milk crates.
Yeah, you could pass those off for real.
And of course, we take this for granted now because we've had these movies for so long. We expect those things to look real, but back then that was a really big deal. I mean, for those of you that maybe are young enough that you didn't experience it, that was a big deal.
These are the guys who figured out how to do that.
Yeah.
Who figured out the need to do that kind of thing, because there had been some attempts at computer animated things earlier than this, or contemporary with this, by smaller, cheaper houses. I'm thinking of one of those, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and the New Year and the Toy Taker.
Did they actually attempt something in
which was
CG?
Yeah.
Really? Okay.
And it was
kind of abysmal.
Compared to this, it was gaggulously horribly animated. Then again, everything about it was horrible compared to this, but other early attempts at computer animation, a flat wall, they'll just make a color and let it be a flat wall. Pixar, no. It has bumps, it has ridges, it has tiny, subtle shadows on it. They put the details onto every single thing, and if it's a character, then they make each character a person. Even characters that you only see 5 seconds of in the whole thing will be a person, and that's something that is, I think, what helped this the most. It was groundbreaking animation. Mm-hmm. It's the first full-length computer animated movie. Great, but they weren't satisfied just to make that the only reason for this movie to exist.
Yeah, that's right.
They did in storytelling, in character making, in people showing, the same kind of extreme high quality work that they did in animating it. And that has been their secret.
Well, and it's an incredibly bold film, given that it was taking so many risks. I mean, it's amazing that this film doesn't feel like pulled back, kind of bashful.
Yeah,
because it could have been kind of a terrifying kind of sort of a terrified like little girl in a corner kind of movie, and it's not that. I mean, it just owns it, and it owns it on every level. It owns it in also like voice casting and everything too. That I mean, like this thing wants to be a major film, and it worked. And I mean, it's amazing that it worked. But I mean, like, they spared no expense. They made sure to do it right.
They put the effort in to make it worthy of great success, so that if it did succeed, it would do so worthily. Yeah,
this film is almost 20 years old now, and despite all of the strides that Pixar and other houses have made in computer-generated animation, of course, that's mostly what we do now is computer animation. The animation still holds up really well. We can still be impressed with some of those things, and yet it's kind of fun to look at how far we really have come. We were talking a lot about how all of the, while we were watching it, that like all of the inanimate objects look really detailed and nearly real, but once something starts moving and especially has like it has a face and starts having dialogue, then it loses some of that a little bit.
Yeah, it's harder.
And it's got and that's a lot harder to do, and so it was limited by its technology.
And the toys look a lot better than the humans do. Understandably.
Well, I think that's a lot of the reason that they were doing so many inanimate things early on. Why they started with a lamp and a ball. Story. Yeah. Why they started with a lamp and a ball and that kind of thing, and why throughout Pixar's life they continue to do films with things that aren't humans. And you notice they waited a long time before. I mean, the first Incredibles was the first time we got straight up. Everybody's a human being. I mean, obviously there's humans in this, but you notice that they're very careful. They don't show you they don't show you heads very often.
And they're in the background. They're at a distance. You're not just staring right up at one. They talk a lot about this in the commentary for Incredibles, actually, because the big thing they had to do for that movie was finally get a grip on how to do humans and make them look good and make them something you can look at in an animated film and be realistic enough and yet not be too realistic.
Well, they had to go ultra stylized.
Yeah, and find a path to doing humans. Which, and the old generation of animators said the same thing. Humans were the hardest.
Were always harder.
The Disney guys commented in several places, give me talking dogs, foxes, and turtles any day before making me draw Prince Charming.
Yeah.
Because you can do anything with a cartoon animal head.
And we'll accept it.
But when they have to look human, that's where things get hard, and that's where things get scary, and it's harder to make things look good.
Yeah. It's harder to make things look believable.
Exactly.
Another great thing about this film, of course, is just the immense amount of details in this. So, I've always said that one of the things that makes a great movie is you pick up something that you didn't pick up on every time you watch it. And I really had that with this film. It's also a lot of fun going back and watching it after more of them came out, and actually after more Pixar films came out, because there are a number of things that show up in the first Toy Story that are little Easter eggs in other movies. Of course, Dinoco from Cars and things like that. These things don't all exist in the same universe, and yet they use some of the same things. But I think you also
so good with a shout out.
Didn't you also have like the Goodyear blimp?
The Lightyear blimp
was in Cars.
It showed up in Cars.
Yeah, and things like that. This plants, not that they knew that they were planting, but this seeds a lot of things that show up in 2 and 3 too. Alice Toy Barn and things like that.
And Pizza Planet.
something that you pointed out that I never caught. I couldn't believe it. And also let me say this real quick too, because this was something that I noticed was watching this again so many years later. I don't think I've probably seen this film 7 or 8 years. Watching this film so many years later, I was picking up on some kind of references and jokes that I needed to be older to pick up on. There's a Megadeth reference.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know what that was.
It has the poster.
And it was
Megadork.
Yeah, it was really funny. But the Buzz Lightyear commercial is voiced by Penn Jillette.
Yeah.
And you said that, and immediately you were like, "Oh, that's Penn Jillette," and I was like, "Holy crap, it is!" I'm a big Penn and Teller fan. I was like, "What? That's fantastic!" Anyway,
there he is.
That was funny.
I liked that Sid's toolbox was a Binford toolbox. With a shout out to Home Improvement.
Yeah.
That Tim Allen was the thing on before he did.
Yeah, that's really neat. Well, and I think it was still on, if I'm not mistaken. 95. I think that show went for another 3 or 4 years after that. But I'd have to go back and check my dates. I'm not sure. One thing, another thing is Tim Allen and what's his face? Tom Hanks. They both have a little bit of their faces in these characters.
Yeah.
You can see a little bit of Tom Hanks in Woody's face.
And a lot of animated movies that use celebrity voices will actually kind of do that. It's both a shout out to the personality. Look, we got Tom Hanks in this,
mm-hmm.
but it's also an animating thing, because if you design your character kind of around the general face of the voice actor,
good point,
then you can film the voice actor reading the lines and pick up some facial cues for how to make your animated character's face move.
You can base it on something, and help it. You're not going from nothing.
It gives you good ideas. It helps you as an animator bring some of the visual life to the delivery that actor would be bringing to their delivery if it was their face acting on film.
And at the same time, just like a lot of these Pixar films, I don't feel like I'm looking at Tom Hanks when I'm looking at Woody. I don't feel like I'm looking at Tim Allen when I'm looking at Buzz. They definitely become these characters, and they don't feel like, okay, we wanted to make. It's not a star vehicle. It's not like we wanted Tom Hanks in this, so we had to create a character around him.
It's not like a Johnny Depp movie.
Neither of these are the sorts of parts these guys usually play. I think that's important.
No.
To throw in there, I mean, like they have elements in their personality, certainly, but like Tim Allen isn't always going around playing a spaceman, until later Galaxy Quest, but you know what I mean.
And I don't know that he would have gotten Galaxy Quest if it weren't for Buzz Lightyear.
That's hilarious.
This may have gotten him a job.
We were talking a little bit while we were watching the film about I don't even want to call it product placement. I don't think in this movie it is product placement, because you kind of want some real toys.
Yes.
A movie about, just like with Wreck-It Ralph, you wanted some real video game stuff, where and it's actually the same kind of formula with later on with Wreck-It Ralph, where your big main characters are new created characters, because you wouldn't really want your main characters in this to be recognizable toys already. You'd want that to be original.
You're going to make new toys, and you're going to want to sell them.
Well,
and you're going to want the rights to them.
That and perceptions and expectations before you walk into the movie. Right. If it's something made up, they get me from scratch. But I feel like I'm in a familiar world, because you have army guys and you have an Etch-a-Sketch and you have all these sorts of things that I played with when I was a kid. It's also more timeless because most kids, even today, had some of that stuff. And so I think even it helps it be timeless, at least for a good few decades.
And they were smart to use a lot of toys that are both well known and have been around for long enough that the parents bringing their kids to this movie are going to identify with some of those.
That's exactly right, yeah. But also, importantly, they create some good, solid, quality new toys also. I mean, like, this isn't a movie that's just there to be a toy commercial like Power Rangers. I don't mind the merchandising because Buzz Lightyear is a cool toy. Yeah. I wanted one of those when I was a kid. I know my brother Dennis, we got him one, and he just played with it like crazy. Yeah. And what was neat was they continue to do this. I mean, these things still exist, and there's still a huge Toy Story line. They still put them out, and like they make the same toys that are in the movie. And they work, and they're good
They do what they
toys.
did in the movie.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's variations on them, but yeah.
The weird irony of this was at the time this came out, I don't know, I'm of the right generation to have grown up with Saturday morning cartoons.
Right.
And they were on Saturday, not Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And over my cartoon watching life, I saw the process of deterioration from cartoons that were cartoons gradually towards more and more cartoons that were merely commercials for a toy line.
Yeah, sure.
So by the time we got to Toy Story, and I'd almost lost all contact with cartoons on TV, the worst cartoons there were the ones that were toy commercials.
And that's all there
The
were.
worst production values, the worst animation, the most gaggulous scripts. That's twice I've used that word
Yeah,
today.
but it's a great word. Yeah, I can see
Well,
why
it's
it would.
in the dictionary.
I can see why it would get stuck in your lexicon.
Yeah, it was child of the 70s and 80s. Sorry, but there we go. They were the worst things at all. This is the first animated thing, possibly ever, that really made sense as to be an advertisement for some toys, among other things.
Yeah, and there were things that you really kind of wanted to buy. So if it's in a movie that's a really good story about characters you like, and it makes you want to buy things, and the products are good, it's a win-win for everybody.
Exactly.
I think that's just wonderful, and it made this company huge.
Yes, it did.
I mean, the merchandising obviously helped just as much as the ticket sales did, and
also,
so thank God for that, because we got, as we're going to discover as we go along in this series, a number of wonderful films out of it.
And that also did a lot of good for Mattel and Hasbro. And
Yeah, sure. Yeah, they had every reason
Makers
to
of
want
the
their stuff in this.
toys that all sorts of things came out, like the Slinky Dog.
Yeah. Now, did that exist
Actually
before
existed.
this? Did it really?
Years and years ago, before my time, the Slinky Dog existed.
Well, keep in mind that some of the toys in Andy's room were probably hand-me-downs from his parents or
Exactly.
something.
So some of these things came back from the grave, thanks to being resurrected by Pixar.
Oh, great point. Yeah.
Because some of these folks grew up with.
And so
stuff
now
too.
they have more of an identification with these movies. You're thinking Toy Story now when you see Slinky Dog, but is that really a problem? Because we weren't going to have it otherwise.
Never even thought of a Slinky Dog before this.
And then Etch-a-Sketch and things like that didn't need the help,
No.
but they just made this credible.
Yeah, and it did them no harm either.
And I think that also kind of helps when you've got other things in this world that are a little bit more genericified, where okay, well, so we're not going to have Chuck E. Cheese's, we'll do our own version of that. But then their version was cooler than Chuck E. Cheese, the whole Pizza Planet thing, and then that also serves a wonderful story purpose because it looks like a spaceport, and you need Buzz Lightyear to have that.
None of these things are ever accidents in a Pixar film.
That's right.
One of the great things about these guys.
At one time, Toy Story had 100% positive on Rotten Tomatoes. 100%. I've never seen that with another film. If it doesn't have that now, it's not much less than that. And this is one of those movies that I don't really have a lot of criticisms of. It just everything works. But I have a question, because I had never thought of this before. Out of watching all three of these films and seeing this one a bazillion times, this is the first time I ever asked myself this question, and I wonder if you have a theory about it or if you ever asked this question. Why would Buzz Lightyear, before he knows he's a toy, ever blank face do the toy thing? You know what I mean? Like when somebody walks into a room, the toys become toys again and they stop moving. And they seem to do it deliberately because we know that they are capable of doing it when people are around. So it's not like laws of toy physics. They have a set of rules that they have to consciously follow, because we see Woody break those rules later, and we also see a number of points where they kind of bend the rules by running around a person, running down the street and hoping nobody will notice. So
The crucial thing is to not get caught.
So if Buzz Lightyear doesn't know he's a toy, why would he ever do that? How would he know that rule? I just think that's interesting.
I wonder if that...
It's a credit to the film that I never thought of it before. Everything else is
maybe
working.
That's some kind of innate knowledge. Somehow instinctually, the freeze is partly instinctual.
Yeah.
It's not a very satisfying explanation, but
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah?
They also, I don't know, there was a movie well before this, made by the Henson people about some toys, and they also had a similar kind of rule.
What was that called, do you know?
I'm trying to remember, and I'm drawing a blank.
I don't mean to put you on the spot, I was just wondering if I'd seen it.
You may not have. You would have been very, very small when it came out.
Oh yeah, but obviously I've gone back and watched a lot of things.
But it was a made-for-TV thing.
Oh, okay.
But it was about some toys, and they had a social hierarchy between toys for people and toys for animals.
Oh, that's interesting.
But the toys also had a supreme law. They were allowed to move around like they were alive as long as there wasn't someone who could see them. But the absolute law was that they had to be found again exactly where they were left, or else they would be frozen forever.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, that there was actually a consequence to it.
And I don't know whether the story people behind this had seen that and picked that up from there, or...
Yeah, because clearly the rules are similar. They do try to be in the same place, or at least close enough that the kid would just think, oh, maybe I just misplaced that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I thought that was an interesting connection, and I don't know whether it's a connection or whether it's an example of convergent coincidence.
Something else I just thought of is, I wonder, because if I'm remembering correctly, when we have that other Buzz Lightyear in a later, is it in 3 where there's
2.
that other, or is it 2? It's been a while, I forget.
Well, he's in 2. He might be in 3 as well.
Is it just like a product defect that they come out of the box thinking they're the real Buzz Lightyear? Because none of these other toys have that problem. Like, none of them.
We never see the other toys come out of the box.
Well, that's true. But Woody thinks it's absolutely preposterous that he thinks he's the real one. So if Woody came out of the box thinking he was the real Woody, he doesn't remember it.
Well, that may be.
I just think that's really interesting.
I don't know. Maybe
it's a product defect.
Maybe old toys were made differently and therefore had different self-knowledge.
See, yeah.
I mean, we learned later that Woody was much older than these other toys. He came from an era where toys like this were hand carved and hand painted, whereas Buzz is injection molded.
Well, I was
articulated and programmed to save the day.
From 2, it looked like Woody was from like the era of Howdy Doody time. Like it seemed like his show was almost a riff on that.
He's kind of a shout out to Howdy Doody without using the name.
Yeah.
Just like the Toyota truck is not a Toyota truck.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
You can tell that it is, but all the letters are missing except yo, which therefore means I surmise that saved them the need of licensing the brand name or anything. I
mean, it's crazy how the attention to detail for stuff like that with characters that aren't even characters. I mean, like, that's just a pizza delivery guy. Okay, it makes perfect sense that this kind of hipster pizza delivery guy has yo on the back of it, but it's also part of Toy. I mean, like, they're noodling all of this.
Because it's such an old beat up truck that all the other letters have worn off.
Yeah.
And then they come back and they use that again.
It's the sort of thing that like inspires hopefully inspires people to live up to a bar, because I watch something like this and I think, man, I wish I could write like that. You know what I mean? Like, I wish I had that kind of attention to detail. Not just with jokes and things, but the nuances of the world. I also want to mention, because I'd never caught this before, that Joss Whedon had a hand in the script.
Yes.
And that had to have helped immensely.
Get some folks who know how to write and who know how to plot.
Yeah, well, and there was a point where this was in major trouble.
Yeah.
They had to. I mean, usually when films get into the kind of state that this did, if they do come out, they're awful. It's amazing that this ended up being what it is and considered one of the best films ever made, because usually when that's your genesis, it crashes and burns. And
that's happened more than a few times in Pixar films. Quite a few of them have gone through major upheaval and chaos in the formative stages, over character development,
and have ended up being way different things than they started as.
Yeah.
a lot of the time, the only thing that sticks around is the initial concept. Okay, it's fish. Okay, it's toys.
Brave, they fired most of the writing and plotting crew.
Wow, I didn't know that.
And replaced them about halfway through. And some of some of the other ones as well, had major crises where they just chucked a whole concept out the window and started from scratch.
Well, I think that about does it for us on Toy Story. I think we covered that pretty well. Geoff, we're doing these in production order. Do you know what we're doing next time?
I should remember, but I don't.
Next time is A Bug's Life.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. So that's going to be really interesting because that has always been at the bottom of my totem pole for Pixar films. I never really cared for that film that much. And I mean, it's not bad. I just never liked it that much. But it's been since I was a kid since I've seen it.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think I've seen Bug's Life since way back in the 90s, Geoff.
Way back there. I'm looking forward to what you'll see in it next. In it now.
Yeah, me too. Is it one that you ever go back and look at?
Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay, cool. Well, that'd be fun because we might not have the same feelings on it. Then again, I might be blown away. It's been so long since I've seen it.
Yeah, that's what's going to be fun.
Yeah, it'll be great. Well, Geoff, thanks again for joining me.
Thanks.
I'm stoked that we're doing this, and it's exciting to have you back. And thanks everybody who requested Geoff back because that's why we're doing another one of these long series. Everybody was really taken with you last time, Geoff. So well done. Way to be insightful and informative, if not.
And loud!
Voluminous, yeah. Well, anyway, thanks everybody for watching, and we'll see you next time on Pixar Discussions. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm the Geoff.